Hello everyone, welcome to Rubber Industry NewsHour, a weekly program for rubber industry. Sawadee Namaskar. Welcome you all for this TechnoBiz program on every Monday. Today we are on episode number 19, date 23rd May. So welcome you all for this special program, weekly program on the Rubber Industry NewsHour. As you know, this program is managed and owned by TechnoBiz. I'd like to quickly introduce about the TechnoBiz. TechnoBiz is based in Thailand. It is recognized as International Resource Center for Industries and Technologies. And the main pillar of TechnoBiz is the professional education. And we also offer the business and networking services for industries and technologies. When it comes to the services, our services are pretty much global, and we organize trade exhibitions, we have training programs, conferences, we have webinars. Because of the COVID, we started webinars, and we have business network, we have publications, magazines, we have a knowledge test, and also technical consulting, and doing integrated marketing as well, and a news server like today. Okay, so these are the typical services of TechnoBiz. When it comes to industry segment, we have two types of segments. Okay, we talk about the polymer side. When you talk about polymer, rubber, of course, is one of the major segments in the polymer industry. We also offer in plastics, polyurethane, adhesive coatings, and in the technology-wise, talking about the chemical technology, engineering, energy environment, membranes and water filtration, and advanced materials. So these are the business segments of TechnoBiz. So we are not just only on the rubber industry, but rubber is one of the key segment we offer services. Which, as I mentioned to you, TechnoBiz is specialized in the training programs. Okay, one is on the rubber industry. We have developed the online training program for the rubber industries. Probably we are the largest and specialized online training provider for the rubber industry. We have developed more than 250 topics. Let me show you the short video. It's around 9+ minutes with all the topics what we have. So that you have an idea what kind of training programs we have. Okay, let's have a look at it. Okay, that's the the programs we have on online training program. You can see this is a pretty exhaustive list. The reason I showed to you this, it's a wide variety of topics and very focused on the various segments of the rubber processing, including the tire as well, latex and tire. Yeah? If you need more information on these topics, you can always check our website, knowhow-webinars.com. If any of you are an expert or would like to contribute for our programs, you're welcome. You can reach out to me. We can discuss further. Okay, let's say get started with today's session, episode number 19. As I welcome you all for this session today. What are the highlights today? The first one is a technical talk and discussion on the sustainable alternative fillers for latex and rubber by Dr. Katrina Cornish and Mr. Robin. They'll be discussing about what are the alternative fillers. And then after that, we have Mr. John Jacob. He will be giving a report on the natural rubber market review. So these are the two sessions we have today in this episode. And if you miss this session or not joining the live session today, you can always check on YouTube at the Technobit channel. This will be available within the next 24 hours time. All past episodes are also available on the Technobit channel. Please check it out. Okay, let's get to the first session, Rubber Industry Tech Talk. As I mentioned to you, that this rubber industry tech talk is focusing on the sustainable alternative fillers for latex and rubber. We have an expert, so Dr. Katrina Cornish from the Ohio State University based in USA. She's a research director. Let me give you a brief overview about her. I have a long story about her, but I try to be as brief as possible. Okay, but there's still a lot to say about Dr. Catherine. She's a well-recognized, well-known researcher in the world. She holds an endowed chair at the Ohio State University, and she's the first Ohio research scholar to be appointed. She leads a program in alternate rubber production and bioemergent materials, including the exploitation of opportunity feedstocks from agriculture and food processing waste for value-added products and biofuel. She is also the leading U.S. scientific expert, and she is internationally recognized as a principal authority on alternative natural rubber production, properties and products, and on natural rubber biosynthesis. Let me add you, she has received a number of awards. Long list is here, but I can tell you that she has received her many outstanding science and innovation awards from the federal and industrial academic profiles. And she has published more than 300 papers, and she's involved or issued on the 25 patents as well. She's also the CEO of the Energy Eni, it's a Goyal latex company, and she's the co-founder of Edison Agri Sciences, Form Materials. Okay, and she actually, in 2019, she won a hat trick of Innovator Awards. Usually we have hat trick goals or hat trick wickets in cricket. I'm very pleased to see that she has received, in the same year, she received 3 Innovator Awards from the Ohio State University. And she also holds a BSc in first class honor in biological sciences, a PhD in plant biology, both from the University of Birmingham in England. So let's welcome Dr. Katrina Cornish to come forward. Dr. Katrina, please. Open your webcam. And she's here. Okay, hi Katrina. Can unmute yourself? Unmute yourself. Yes. Okay. Okay, can you adjust your camera a little bit? Yeah.
Yeah, it's changed cameras from when we did the thing. It's gone through different camera setup.
Okay. Yeah. Can you please adjust yourself? Yeah. Okay. All good then. Yeah. Okay. A little more.
I know. It's not firmly attached. It's going to fall off if I'm not careful.
Okay. Fine.
That's all I can do at the moment.
Okay. Fine. That's all right. Okay. Now we have another speaker, and Mr. Robin A. He is the president and founder of Peloton Technologies. It's a privately held company founded in 2005, based in Ohio. Before he started his company, he was from 1977 to 2000. He held management positions in purchasing, contract negotiations, environmental compliance, and new venture development at Sandy Supply Company and Worcester Tool and Supply Company. He also involved with the oil and gas business as well and in industry. And currently, since 2010, he has been actively engaged in the sponsoring R&D and commercialization of technologies developed at the Ohio Agriculture Research and Development Center, the agriculture research arm of the Ohio State University, and the largest university agricultural biosciences research center in the United States. Peloton specializes in identifying and repurposing valuable agro-industrial residues. In other words, they regenerate undesirable waste into new materials and products using the practical innovation. Rob, welcome. Okay, let's unmute you. Okay.
There we go.
Okay, hi there.
Hello.
Okay, so welcome you both for this session, on the sustainable alternate fillers for latex and rubber. Before I get started, Katrina, I have a question for you. How long have you been doing research?
In this area, 35 years.
35 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How you
Amazing.
feel as a researcher doing this research?
Well,
how you get inspiration? Yeah.
it's really interesting topic area. You know, it's so in terms of all my research jollies, it's very interesting. You know, we've got a very wide breadth, anything to do with rubber, and because it's such an important thing to work on. The main downside of it is a constant looking for money to support the research.
That's right.
So if anyone's got some money, want to do some research, you know, where it will be most gratefully received.
Yeah, right. It's always a challenge, I think. Is it right? Yeah.
Yep.
So how you know Rob?
Well, Rob and I met, got to be at least 10 years ago, isn't it, Rob? Not long after we just came to the university. And we were working on a related biofuels project at that time, or platform chemicals project, from residuals from rubber producing crops and other feedstocks. So, Rob, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, and then we started working on this project with the show back in around about 19 something. Yeah, 2017. So we've been working on this for about 5 years now.
Super. So you are well connected, both of you. So let's get to the presentation first, and after that we'll have a discussion. Yeah. Okay. May I invite Katrina to make a presentation. I have a control for you. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not going. Oh, there we go. All right. Anyway, I'm going to go really quickly through this because I have a hard stop at the top of the hour. So then you'll have your discussion. Will have to be with Rob and
Sure.
Helen if you've got questions. You can contact me for technical information after the talk. But anyway, fillers basically are really important. Everybody is looking for sustainable fillers so that they can improve their carbon footprints. Okay, let's keep going down. Can you move it? Nothing's happening my end. And
Okay.
next slide, please.
You want, this is the first slide, yeah? Okay.
Next slide. I want that to keep going. I've got.
Okay.
Next slide. Next slide. I already talked to this one. Okay, next slide. Okay. And eggshells is one I'm working on with Rob, which is a very useful. It's a very nice filler, and we have eggs produced and therefore eggshells produced every day. And of course, food processing eggshells are the most accessible. Next slide. And we produce enormous numbers, over 1.1 billion eggs per year in the US. Next slide. And this is what they look like. And you've got nice tertiary structure, which is, you can push again. Nice tertiary structure, which in a microfiller is partially maintained. And you can use it in latex and solid rubber. Next slide. So I've just thrown in a little bit of data from using it in latex. Last time we discussed this, I only showed solid rubber. Next slide, please. And so we looked at it in, just push again, 3 different types of latex, 3 different sizes. We looked at multiple fillers in this particular study: eggshell, carbon fly ash, and Wayuli bagasse. We also have tomato peels. And the loading for latex is lower than you would do in solid rubber, where we went up to 70 phr. Here we only looked at 0 to 10 because you couldn't get more in. Next slide. And here's just one back. And so here the ones we have the different loadings on the x-axis: tensile strength, the elongation to break modulus. The asterisks are significance at 5%, and 0 phr is the control. Now these are single fillers; these aren't mixed fillers like we did with the solid rubber. So you can see that there's a difference between them. And if we just go to the table, next slide. And if anybody wants to see these slides again when Rob's doing questions, he can take you back to certain ones. So here's Wayuli, Centex NRL, which is your regular stuff, and then the Vitex NRL, which is where the soluble protein has been removed. And so you can see some of the data compared with the controls. One of the things that's very interesting, just a small amount of carbon fly ash makes a huge difference. And the eggshell filler is pretty good as well. And you can just see the data here. And if you look at the control Vitex, you can see that the intrinsic properties do go down because it doesn't have nearly the amount of protein that the Centex has. But you can compensate for that with filler. Anyway, next, please. And blended fillers, we just did replacements. This particular study was starting with 35 PHR carbon black and then replacing it until we had 35 PHR filler. Next. Next slide. Yeah, okay. And this just shows eggshell data because that's the main topic here. And we can see the carbon black makes a huge difference, comparing the bar all the way to the left with the next one over. And then you can see that you do get very nice properties with replacement of carbon black, partial replacement of carbon black with your filler. So next slide. Sorry, I have to go so fast. I have a hard stop on the grant review panel. And then this is just introducing the tomato peel filler. So this is also produced in large quantities, but not every day. This is something, most of it's produced in the autumn of the US industry. Next. And then I thought this might be interesting, thermogravimetric analysis for carbon fly ash, eggshell, Wayulla bagasse, and tomato peel, where we have the different composites, where you look at the 35 PHR carbon black, then the 5 parts bio-based, and then the 35 parts. And you can see the eggshell one, that it's a very stable filler, not quite as stable as carbon black, but you can see that you go all the way across to over 750, well, over 700 degrees centigrade. We also do get new composition being formed, new chemicals being formed. That's probably calcium. That's calcium stearate in the black there. So we are changing composition. The tomato peel is very interesting. See, that's a very stable filler. But what we think is happening there is that it's carbonizing in situ. So it's actually turning into dispersed carbon, making it that stable. Anyway, next slide, please. And we did talk about this. We get some interesting, just click the button again, please, interesting combinations with low loadings of eggshell and fillers in cluster 3. That's like carbon black booted. And then cluster 4, we're changing the normal relationships between these physical parameters. Without any carbon black, though, you can see cluster 1 and 2, they're very poor performing rubbers. They're better than the raw rubber in cluster 1, the green lines, but Wayulla is a very soft rubber unless you reinforce it. So next slide. So you need some carbon black. And then power consumption, the initial power consumption without these fillers, but with the carbon black is on the left where the x-axis is at 0. And you can see nearly all of these fillers in both Havea and Wayulla rubber reduce power consumption. And so that's a very useful thing on a large scale factory. The next slide. And then we also did the same sort of study with bifunctionalized silanized silica, looking at this in 50, 60, and 70 PHR. So next slide. And again, we are changing some of the established understanding of how these parameters are put together. Next slide. And this is durability somewhere in again. It's very interesting. What happened there? Okay. Okay. Is that mine or yours? Okay. And next slide, please. And this is to do, why the eggshells work so well is that they help the dispersion of the other filler. So the silica here, you've got big lumps on the left. The eggshell, you see, it's a finer filler, but if you mix the two together, you get far less than 50% big lumps. So that's basically what that's about. Next slide, please. And here's the contact information. And thank you very much for your attention, but I have to go because I have another meeting that I have to be on. And so I will let Rob Yenny field any business questions, and my contact information for technical questions is on the top there. So thank you very much. Bye-bye, Param.
Thank you very much, Katrina. Appreciate the time. I know that you're busy. Okay, we'll catch up some other time. Guys, as she mentioned that if you have any questions, technical questions, you know how to reach Dr. Katrina, her email address here. Okay, but we will chat with the commercial man, the one who is producing these biofillers or alternate fillers. Rob, welcome. How are you doing?
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay. Rob, I wish that Katrina stays there, but we will, we address some of the questions, related to this business on the alternate fillers. First of all, I want to understand your company name, Peloton. What does that mean? Is it a race, a bicycle race, or something?
That's how most people know it. It's
Right.
Peloton.
Yeah.
It's actually its origins are in French. It's where we get our word platoon from. And the reason I named the company Peloton, because it does imply a group working closely together to be successful. It applies to the group of people. It could apply to the products that are working together. For instance, a car, tires, and a motor and steering wheels, and all that, seats, all working together to make a successful product. And so that's why I named it Peloton Technologies.
Okay. So by the way, Rob, how did you get into this business? You started this Peloton in 2010, right? Yeah, and basically offering the taking care of the regenerate. Is the word you say the word the regenerate undesirable waste? That is a definition or kind of a slogan for your business? Is it right?
Yeah, we like to say residues or byproducts.
Right, that's
instead
right.
of waste.
Right.
We actually, Peloton got set up in 2005. We got involved in the industry. I come out of the oil and gas industry, as you had said in my intro, and we got involved in a project back in 1995 that was a process that was a subterranean process for producing bioethanol by conversion of municipal solid waste in a subterranean pressure vessel. And because we were in the oil and gas industry, obviously we were involved in pipe, valves, and fittings. So we knew about drilling wells and how the structures of wells work. And this technology happened to be a subterranean process, like I said, using gravity and geothermal heat. And they basically drilled an oil well, in a sense, a shallow one, that was structured somewhat like a traditional oil and gas well is structured. And so they came to us looking for expertise in that field and for an equipment access point because of our history in the oil and gas industry supply business. And then it just evolved through a couple different projects, that being one. And then I started working with Ohio State University at the OARDC ag campus in Worcester, Ohio, which is the largest ag campus in the country. And so there's a lot of technology, as you know, and we all know, that is developed at universities, and we got involved in sponsoring research and hopefully commercializing it if it's a viable technology. And it's very interesting. We had this discussion last week, and I always, in the back of my mind when thinking about this kind of thing, think about how many technologies that are developed at universities or in labs get put on a shelf and they basically die in the dark on the back shelf in a closet. Okay.
That's right. Yes.
And so I thought, I've been dealing with different professors and saying, well, what are you developing? What can you develop? Here's where the markets are. Do you have anything? What can we do with it? Okay, is it viable? And so that's how I kind of evolved Peloton to where we are today, working with Katrina on the eggshell as a filler in rubber applications.
So what made you, okay, I know Katrina did research and she found the filler made out of the eggshells, and it, of course, it has a good, it gives good properties for the, for the compound or rubber properties. What point you decide I need to commercialize it?
At what point do we decide?
Yes, at what point is it? Because I want to ask you this because there are many researchers, as you rightly mentioned, about a lot of research is stuck in the shells. Okay, and particularly based in Asia. I know a lot of good researchers are here, and as investor, or okay, this is what I want to get into, or this filler business you want to get into. At what point you have made a decision on that?
I think my interest got piqued in it when I had been following Katrina's work with the Waiuli, and she's very dedicated to that effort. And she had, during our conversations one day, she had mentioned the eggshell and the tomato peel. And so I didn't grab onto it right then, but a few years later, I came back to her and I said, "What are you doing with that eggshell? I know nothing about the rubber industry." Okay, I said, "I don't know anything about that," but I knew enough based on what my conversations with her over a couple of years to say, "Well, okay, so what are you doing with that eggshell?" And she said, "Well, I'm not really doing anything." And I said, "Well, can we pull it off the back burner, or to keep the analogy going, if you will, pull it out of the dark closet and look at it again?" And she said, "Sure, let's do that." So I wasn't sure where it was going to lead at that point. And so that's how we got started. And I said, let's just pull it out and look at it. I didn't know if we were going to do anything or not. I had to go through a vertical learning curve, and I'm still going through that vertical learning curve. And so that's how I got started.
Yeah. And so you have producing these fillers, and what is your experience so far? What is the feedback from the some rubber industries in terms of using this as samples or even the pilot scale? So
yeah, we've let me a few statistics here. In the United States alone, as Katrina showed a slide there, in the United States, about the volumes of eggs produced in just the United States. Let's just talk about the U.S. right now. In the U.S., the eggs are produced at an egg facility, right? 30% of the eggs are then cracked or broken. Okay, let's say they're breaking facilities, either at the site where the plant is, where the eggs are produced, or an off-site breaking facility. The reason they're broken is to produce liquid, frozen, and powdered eggs. Okay, so 30% of the eggs produced, and right now I can't give you the total number of eggs produced in the U.S. I have a chart I can tell you. It was Katrina's slide. You saw that. You can see it there if you want to. But really, what you're doing is generating 200,000 tons of eggshell every year, okay, in the U.S., and that's going up. That's a USDA statistic. I stay up on that very closely, and we're over 200,000 tons per year. There you go. So that's actually eggs produced. So take 30% of that, you do the calculations, you'll get 200,000 plus tons of eggshell per year. So a lot of that eggshell is landfilled. Some of it is land applied by the farmers, but it's a very small portion of it. So I think this is key because we do not collect eggshell at the curb, okay? Logistically, that's not valid, it's not viable, okay? So we go to egg producing facilities. Our production facilities are set up either at an egg producing facility or within reasonable distance of an egg producing facility or a breaker facility. Some egg producers ship their eggs off-site to be broken, okay, and produced into the liquid, frozen, and powdered products. So does that answer your question? Maybe that was a long answer to a short question.
No, it's what I'm saying, asking is that whether it's how is the performance or what is the feedback from the industry. Yeah, okay. I understand now that the source of raw material for these fillers. Okay, and the you see it can be commercialized in a bigger scale because there is a huge amount of eggshells are available, and the sources are the farms itself. Okay, you can't get them from each household. Is no use, but it has to be from the farms itself, where are the processing eggs, right? Okay, so
Okay. Yeah.
how is the filler produced from these eggshells? What is the feedback from the customers?
We've had surprising amount of interest in this. One thing where we've fallen short in is getting the word out that we have it. We basically have been contacted and made connections with rubber companies just by word of mouth, and Katrina's presentations literally around the world, and people come up and say, hey, that sounds very interesting. What about the eggshell? Can we get some samples and so forth? And so over the last 5 years, we now are sending product, obviously clear across the U.S. We've sent product to South Korea. We've sent product to Colombia. So we're getting into the international markets. Okay. Some of the applications that the products are being used in, and it's ventured out beyond rubber into plastics too. So so we're getting into some plastic applications. But I'm looking at my list here, so I'm going to look down so I can give you folks a list of some of the products that we are working with to develop and commercialize using the shell. We've had a lot of interest in the auto parts industry. That was one of our first entries into the market. Rubber matting was another one. So industrial matting, mats for sporting good or sporting, commercial applications, and like sport fields that are rubber, based fields. Thin film sheeting, rubber hose, sporting goods, rubber soles on shoes is something that's very interesting. Pet toys, concrete is a big one. And we've even done some research in 3D printing as a filler for 3D printing. So as you can see, there's a lot of different wheels turning, a lot of different product fields that the shell is being sold into. So and used in. So
the applications are wide, and I think you're getting good feedback out of this filler use. Yeah, and she's mentioning in the presentation, she mentioned that the benefits of combining with carbon black or with silica, also the property improvement is also there. Okay, this is very interesting. And what is the cost like? What kind of price you're offering this?
Well, again, what we don't do is, eggshells are a calcium carbonate. Okay, they're about a 98% calcium carbonate content. When I think of that, I always ask people. Look, here's a little question for your audience: are eggshells solid? The eggs you have in your refrigerator that you make an omelet from, are they solid? And if not, let's say the perforate. How many perforations does an egg have? Just a little side here. Do you have any idea? Okay, an eggshell has anywhere from 8,000 to 18,000 perforations in it.
Oh.
Just so you know, it's just kind of a little trivia that a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know until 5 years ago. So cost. There's three big things in any new product development that you run into, and the acronym I like to use is CAP. So it's cost, availability, and performance. The cost for the product is, and I bring up the calcium carbonate aspect because we do not compete with mined calcium carbonate. As you saw in Katrina's presentation, there's a lot of benefits to the calcium carbonate from the eggshell because of the overall structure of the shell that add qualities, performance qualities that the calcium carbonate and the mined calcium carbonate can't. So our product does not compete with calcium carbonate. What we do compete with is offsetting some carbon black material. okay, or the silica as an example. That's our target market. Cost is based on customer specifications, because we can custom mill the material. Okay, it's based on that, and it's obviously based on quantity. Okay, so that's the best answer I can give for that right now. It's based on those, because specifications our flagship product is a D95 40 micron size product. That's usually what we start with inquiries, because they don't know, what size they're going to need. And we've not had one customer that size has not worked for. We've tried finer, but it tends to maybe clog up some of the equipment if it gets too much finer. I mean, your audience probably knows that a 40 micron is like flour. Actually, here's some. I don't know if you can see it or not. This is a little bit of the sample of it. Get it in front of the camera here.
Yeah,
it's not great can. So there, it's basically, I take it out, but it would go all over the place because it's so fine. So here's a view of it.
Yeah.
So that's a 40 micron. It's like flour, and that seems to work for most people.
And if somebody wants in our part of the world, are you able to send a sample? Probably if they take care of the shipping cost. Yeah. So
yeah,
they want it.
Yeah, we have 2 stocking points in the U.S. One of them in Worcester, Ohio. The other one up in Minnesota, and we can ship from either location.
Yeah. And are there any precautions to be taken when you're mixing with other fillers like carbon black or silica in handling of with this filler?
Is there a problem with the handling? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Or anything that you need to be concerned about or handle properly, when mixing with or combining with the other fillers. Yeah.
Well, that's out of my wheelhouse, because it's but I know enough about the material that it's no different than some of the other materials that are used for blending anyhow. I mean, carbon black. We had one customer mention that there was an odor with the shell, okay, and very slight odor, because there is a little bit of the membrane that remains in the shell when it's refined. Okay, when we refine it, then we mill it, we package it, we store it, we ship it, but there's a little bit of membrane in there, and that's a protein. Okay, so when you get into high temperature applications, and one I'm thinking about is a thermoplastic application, there was a little bit of odor. Okay, but as other rubber manufacturers have told me, well, we have an odor when we use carbon black, so it's just a different odor. It's not anything that would preclude us from using the shell.
Okay, Rob, I think it's a very interesting product. I think it's environmentally friendly, and you're basically we call it residues, not a waste. Okay, it's a residues and byproducts. Okay, so when I look at the presentation of Katrina, even it is a short presentation, but she has given what are the benefits or what kind of performance improvement it can give by combining with the other fillers. Okay, and most importantly, you're not sending that eggshells to the landfill. You're converting it into a valuable resource. Yeah. So how are you feeling in this business? Are you enjoying this peloton technologies compared to oil and gas? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, I get to meet great people like you. Even though it's on a screen, I get to meet you. It's exciting. It's something new. It's every day is a challenge. When you're trying to start a company up and you're an entrepreneur, it's always a bumpy ride. It's like being on a roller coaster, okay, a wooden roller coaster, and I love it, but it's what I find really positive about it is to have the technological backup, like with Katrina. She's very smart. She knows her product in and out, and so that gives me great comfort, because she's the brains of the outfit here. Okay, so any technical questions, I would defer them to her. I can give you some basic answers, but that's not my forte. That's not where I fit in, and I will defer anyone to her. We have a lot of conference calls with customers. A lot of the model tends to be that we send samples to customers that are interested in it, whatever you need, and you run your tests, and when the results come back, we always like to know how it's going. We stay in touch with our customers, and we often get on a phone call and say, what did you do here? Why did this not work here? Or why did it work so well? And we bring Katrina into those conversations, and I sit back and I let the brains talk, okay? And they discuss it, and usually it's way over my head, or often way over my head. And let you intelligent people talk about that, you scientists and technicians.
Rob, you have mentioned about there is a display of research developments in agriculture products, and you guys visit that research area. Can you talk about that?
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
During our conversation before, you have mentioned about there is some kind of researchers display their innovations, and at the University of Ohio State University. Is it right?
Yeah.
And investors, or they go and visit it and try to whether it is possible to commercialize it. Is that there is some kind of project is there, right, at the Ohio State? Yeah. Can you talk? I think for the audience, there are some researchers also joining this session today, and for them, I want to understand how to commercialize the research into the final products, or into the commercial level, and how in the Ohio State University or in other places in US, how do they do it? Can you talk a little bit? You are investors, you are a commercial man, and then you choose the product of fillers from the eggshells, and that is why you invest in in that product. Can you talk about that system? How this university and investors, or industry involved? Can you please?
Okay, so you're asking about what in particular what the model is at Ohio State for commercializing technologies developed at the university. Okay.
That's right. Yeah.
At the OARDC, or the Agricultural Technical Institute, there is a college there. I know it as the OARDC, which stands for Ohio Agricultural Research and Development Center. That's what it was originally called. So they, unfortunately, fortunately, when I started working with them back in 2010 on a biochemicals application, okay, lignocellulosic materials being converted to bioethanol, biochemicals, and some other things that we played with. We put that on the back burner for now. But there was a aspect of the university called BioHio, which was their I don't want to say company, but their department that really focused on commercialization of technologies. They knew what I was saying. Okay, yeah, you're doing this, and you've developed this great idea in the lab, and you're in the test tubes, but can it be scaled? Okay, and is there a demand for it? And like I said, we all know a lot of it gets put on the back shelf, right? And as you and I were talking the other day, I can't help but think, there could be cures for cancer sitting in a dark closet somewhere because nobody thought that they could be commercialized or whatever. So BioHio, as an example of what the model is at OSU, was set up for this exact purpose. Since then, for various reasons I won't get into, because I don't know all the exact reasons, that department was shut down about, I'm going to say, 2 years ago. They had a beautiful building on campus in Worcester. Dr. Shauna Brummert was the head of it. Great lady, did a great job, but they decided, for whatever reasons, they shut that program down. But And every university or a lot of universities have a technology commercialization office. Okay, Ohio State has one. They're you know, where they have their technologies go into that department. They're patented. A lot of cases are patented, and the university owns the patent. And you know, you can license those technologies from universities. If you can go online and look at universities and look at those departments and see if there's any technologies there that you like that are available, and contact the university and say, hey, I'm interested in this. Can you send me more information and let's talk about it? So there is that avenue, and that was Ohio State University's avenue. You can also sponsor research, and we have sponsored research. Okay, so the biochemicals, the bioethanol biochemicals project that we worked on, Peloton sponsored that. Okay. So so we've sponsored the professors and the you know, and their postdocs and all the things they needed to further develop something that they had a groundwork in, and that's kind of the model.
Yeah. So it looks like the university has a designated department to promote or commercialize whatever the innovations or technologies developed, and you know, connecting with the people like you. Yeah, is it right? Yeah. So yeah, like a bio. Yeah. So yeah.
I mean, you can go that route, or like I said, you can come in and say, I'm interested in this. What skill sets do your professors have that might be able to help us with this? Okay. Do you have any professors that are working on this? And that's how we got started with the university. I reached out to them and said, hey, there's something, here's what I'm interested in. That campus is in my hometown of Worcester, Ohio. And so I got a hold of them and said, and there happened to be a gentleman that was from Worcester who was working as down in Columbus at the main campus in this kind of thing. And so we actually met out here in California, and I said, here's what I'm interested in. Do you have anybody that's doing this kind of research that might help us advance this? And so that evolved into a sponsorship, and that was how we got the ball rolling. And I met Katrina, and you can know the rest of the story.
So Rob, can I ask you one thing? You know, I'm actually, as you know, I'm based in Thailand. Okay, of course, I've connected with a lot of Asian people. For the sake of Asian researchers, if there is an opportunity in Asia for you to research to commercialize, would you like to invest, or would you like to, you know, participate in this process? If there is a potential business opportunities there,
we would love to talk about it. I can say it would. There's. I mean, obviously, right now, we're very
hands are full.
Yeah. Busy in the U.S., but there obviously is potential. I think China is the #1 egg producer in the world. India is second. The United States comes in third. So there's a lot of shell around the world. So
right.
Yeah, we would talk with anybody, and anything I can help with, I'm here.
Super. Are you going to what any other products other than this fill eggshells?
Are we doing anything other than with eggshell?
Yeah.
Katrina keeps trying to nudge me into the tomato peels.
Okay.
She loves those tomato peels, and she loves the eggshell too, obviously. I have a problem with eggshells, even though they perform well, just because of the seasonality of them. Okay. And I don't know, living in California, you see eggs or tomatoes pretty much, I don't know if I want to say year round, being hauled around, you know, from farms out in the Central Valley. But I think the seasonality issue could be an issue with the tomato peels, and the inability for them to have shelf life without probably drying them somehow. Eggshells have, as far as we know today, and all the tests we've done, I think we've tested eggshells that we've had on our shelves for 3 years, and the composition is almost identical as to when they came out of the breaking facility. It's basically calcium carbonate we think the actual shelf life is going to be pretty much maybe longer than I live. Who knows? But I don't think you have to worry about the shelf life so much on the eggshells. Tomato peels, maybe. What I'm finding interesting is the applications. More like I just gave you that list of applications. It's like it's kind of, and that's what I'm always trying to say, look at or whatever, and I'm reading something or whatever. I said, wow, I wonder if the eggshell would work in this application. So, you know, we've experimented with a lot of different things. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we check it out, you know. We say, does this work for you? We'll send you some samples, see what you think, you know. That's fun.
That's right. Rob, I'm really happy that I met you through this program, because your role is very, very important, equally important like what Katrina is doing. Research is one thing, bringing into the commercial scale is very, very important. You know, I think as a researcher, she would be more happy, more satisfied whatever research she develop, you know, outcome come into reality. And we need people like you more, so to support our researchers. And I'm hoping that you invest in more, you know, agriculture-based residues for the benefit of the environment or for the benefit of the industry itself. Okay, any final message to the audience?
I would just say there was some contact information through our website on the presentation. You can get a hold of me there, and we can start a discussion. I would love to talk to anybody and tell you what we have and get some shell in your hand and let you play with it. So that's my invite to everybody.
Okay. Thank you, Rob, for joining this session. Appreciate your time and participation. We talk to you again.
Thank you for the invite. Look forward to talking to you again.
Sure. Yeah. We'll be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, guys, so that's a presentation on the, and also the discussion on the sustainable alternative fillers for the latex and rubber. As you see, Katrina has developed a filler, a biofiller from the eggshells, which is supposed to be going to the, a landfill because from the farm something. And Rob found it is valuable and invested in that filler. So it's a perfect combination, Katrina and Rob. We need more people like them so that you can develop more innovative products and can be commercialized for the benefit of the the environment. Not only that, good for the research and the industry itself. Okay, I thank both Dr. Katrina and Rob for participating in this session. It's really wonderful to learn about their work, and I'm hoping that in other parts of the world also, we have people like them and invest in the products developed by the researchers. Okay, let me give you some additional information, upcoming events on the rubber industry, upcoming events. We have actually starting tomorrow, there is a World Rubber Summit organized by the International Rubber Study Group, which is called shortly called IRSG. If you're interested, you can go on rubberstudy.org. You can register for it. And there is an expo in Malaysia, okay, International Rubber Industry Convention Expo during 6th to 8th September in Kuala Lumpur at the KLCC Convention Center. Please do visit and participate in this Malaysian Rubber Expo. I'd like to invite you also the IRC 2022. It's going to be in Bangalore in India during the 24th to 26th November, organized by the Indian Rubber Institute. I welcome you all to participate in this IRC 2022 too. And this is our exhibitions organized Technobase, which will be next year, GRTE, Global Rubber Latex Center Expo, during the 29th to 31st March 2023 in Bangkok. And we have another expo, Arab Rubber Expo in October in Sharjah next year. I welcome you all to participate, explore the opportunities and get updated. Okay. Now, rubber industry market review. The last part of our program today is a rubber industry market review. In this rubber industry market review, we have Mr. Jom Jacob, He'll be giving a report on the natural rubber market review. Let me brief you about Mr. John Jacob. As many of you know, he's an independent analyst for the natural rubber industry with 30 plus years experience in analyzing rubber markets, forecasting industry trends, and formulating long-term policies and development plans for natural rubber sector. He served the Association of Natural Rubber Producing Countries, ANRPC, at Kuala Lumpur as its a senior economist for 11 years. Before that, he worked for the Rubber Board of India by holding various positions for 23 years. So let's welcome Mr. Jom Jacob to give a talk on the natural rubber market review in this week. Mr. Jom.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the natural rubber market review. In fact, this program is called natural rubber market review, but I am giving more emphasis on the market outlook rather than review, because people are, I know listeners are more, the audience is interested more to know what is going to happen rather than what happened last week. Anyway, we'll have a brief review of the markets during last week. Very briefly, only one slide we have. What happened in the futures and physical market during last week. We'll have a quick review of the markets. We have one slide showing the performance of the prices during last week. So first, what happened to the futures market? Let us review. We have three important Asian futures market. One is Shanghai futures markets, the contract expiring September. In fact, last week, Shanghai rubber futures averaged 2.6% higher compared to a week before. In the SICOM TSR 20 contracts expiring July, averaged last week 2.6% higher compared to a week before. In the case of Osaka, the Osaka RSS3, the contracts expiring October, which was the corresponding to the highest volume, the last week the prices averaged 0.6% lower compared to a week before. So we can see one contrast in the case of rubber futures traded on the Osaka, while the other two markets, Shanghai and SICOM, averaged nearly 3% higher last week. In the Osaka markets, prices were lower. The reason was that there is a currency factor in the case of rubber futures traded on the Osaka futures, because Osaka futures are traded in terms of Japanese yen. So for the last 2-3 weeks, Japanese yen remained strong. Not only remained strong, it was gaining strength against dollar in the past 3 weeks. So when the yen is strong, so those investing overseas investors find Osaka rubber futures economically less attractive. This was a reason, because of the currency factor, that it was because of the currency factor that Osaka rubber futures averaged lower, slightly lower, 0.6% lower last week compared to the week before. But when we look at the other two markets, Shanghai and SICOM, prices averaged 2.6% higher. When looking into the physical markets, we have two important markets for TSR, which is the two important markets are, one is STR20 grade at FOB Bangkok, and the other is SMR20 grade at Kuala Lumpur, FOB Kuala Lumpur. So STR20 averaged 1.7% higher last week compared to a week before, and in the case of SMR20, the prices during last week averaged 2.5% higher. When we look into RSS markets, we have two important markets. One is RSS3 FOB Bangkok. The prices during last week didn't change compared to a week before. There was no change, averaged almost at the same level last week compared to a week before. But at Kottayam, RSS4 traded at the Kottayam market, Kottayam local market, averaged 0.8% higher during last week compared to a week before. In the case of latex, we have two important markets. One is Bangkok. At Bangkok, market prices average 1.3% higher compared to a week before, and the latex in the case of Kuala Lumpur market average 1.1% higher. So this is a summary of the prices during last week compared to a week before. So what we have seen last week was the market were generally, although there was some exception in the case, markets were generally going up during last week. One important factor which influenced the price during last week was the announcement by the Shanghai authorities that the massive lockdown in the Shanghai city would be gradually lifted, or restrictions would be eased starting from 1st of June. So this was a positive news to the market, but this news did not evoke a substantial positive sentiment in the market because there were other negative factors having a major dominant role. That was a reason why prices made a substantial recovery during last week in response to the announcement regarding the reopening or easing of restrictions in the Shanghai city. Now, I know that audience is interested more about the outlook on the prices. If we will go to one slide, which is showing the various factors which are going to influence the prices in the coming week. First of all, we have the demand supply fundamental, supply and demand fundamental. What is going to happen in the supply? Now this is May. We have reached the end of May. So from May onwards, this is the global supply is seasonally up. Global supply is higher compared to, in fact, actually February, March, April. These are the 3 months where global supply is lower. From May onwards, global supply is higher because the wintering off season, or the season of leaf shedding and defoliation of rubber trees, is over in all the major producing countries. And so now onwards, until January, the global supply is expected to be a little bit higher, not little bit, substantially higher compared to the previous 3 months. So global supply is higher. This means that we are expecting a seasonal increase in supply. But at the same time, we have to take into account that now it is a rainy season in Thailand. That means the rubber production in Thailand will be interrupted due to rains. Interrupted means production is there, but if because of rain, maybe scattered rain, so that means the rain will be having a negative influence on the price, or influence on the supply from Thailand. And also in India, the major production is coming from the state of Kerala. Kerala actually now having a depression rain, and also there is forecast that the southwest monsoon, which is expected to set in by the beginning of June, will be coming earlier this year. That means by the last week, maybe around 27th of May, the southwest monsoon is expected to set in the state of Kerala and the state of Tamil Nadu. Actually, nearly 70% of the India's production is coming from this traditional rubber growing region. So that means the supply from India will be lower. Actually, India is actually having a separate, compared to other major producing countries, India is having the southwest monsoon. This is peculiar to India only. So India, this is the case of Kerala and Tamil Nadu state. And now that means because of the southwest monsoon, supply will be interrupted from June onwards, or maybe by the end of May onwards, June, July, and August. That means for the next 3 months, supply will be low in India because of the southwest monsoon and the resultant tapping disruptions. This is what is going to happen in the case of India. And also we should take into account that in the case of countries which are located, countries or regions which are located in the south of the equator, the leaf shedding or the off-season of supply is not now. It is not April or May, in March or April. So off-season of supply is from July onwards. So that means in the case of nearly 70% of the rubber area in Indonesia, and also rubber area in the case of Brazil. It is falling in the south of the equator. For those countries, the leaf shedding season is not February, March, April. Leaf shedding season is in July only. Anyway, it is coming only. So I just wanted to mention that some of the countries are different from in terms of this leaf falling season. So just wanted to mention that. So look, so we have mentioned that supply will be in Thailand will be interrupted by rain, and supply in Kerala will be interrupted by rain. And also at the same time, we should consider that the northeast region of India is also the second largest producing region, natural rubber producing region of India. Now the northeast, among the northeastern state, the Assam state is currently having currently hit by unseasonal rains and floods. So supply from that region also will be affected. That means India will be having a short-term supply issue. So that means Indian market will be having will be reflecting the short domestic supply. At the same time, in the case of at the same time, we should consider that the dollar is very strong, or Indian rupee is weak at the moment. That means imported natural rubber is expensive because of the strong dollar or weak Indian rupee. That means domestic supply is low. At the same time, dollar is very strong, or imported rubber is expensive. That means Indian market will be having a positive, will be having a support of these two factors. Now coming to the global demands. Global demands, there is one positive factor, that is announcement by the authorities in China that China's lockdown will be eased and starting from 1st of June. That's a positive news. In fact, I believe demand prospects have improved because of that announcement. But still, we should consider that China has not reached the zero COVID level. Still, the daily cases are around 700 or something like that. But cases are coming down. So that means there is some kind of a positive sentiment, or maybe there is a feeling that demand will be improving once the lockdowns are lifted or eased. That is one positive factor. But at the same time, there are a number of negative factors impacting on the demand outlook. For example, manufacturing activities. All manufacturing activities world over is impacted by, one, the surging commodity prices. Commodity prices actually abnormally jumped in 2022 until May, and also disrupted supply chain and shipping logistics, overheated inflation, strong dollar, rising interest rates, and chip semiconductor shortage, and also fear of economic slowdown, and also what is called VUCA syndrome. VUCA stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. That means businesses world over are in an uncertain phase. So whenever there's an uncertainty in any business, there is a cost of uncertainty. If there is uncertainty, the business leaders can't take proper decision, right decision. So always there will be an indirect cost on that. That also is impacting the manufacturing activities. Then, as a result of all these, manufacturing activities are disrupted. That means that there's demand is there for the manufactured products, but manufacturing enterprises or companies or plants are unable to manufacture and meet their demands. This is a situation. That means the current scenario in the manufacturing sector is something like a supply driven, because of the supply side issue and not due to demand. Demand is there, but plants and factories are unable to manufacture and supply according to demand. So that means demand for the natural rubber as well as demand sector is actually demand outlook is impacted by the various factors here. So on one side we have supply globally improving, although we have mentioned exceptions in a few countries. Supply globally is improving because of the seasonal factor. On the other side, we have seen we are expecting demand prospects kept down because of the factors we are mentioned here. So this is a supply side scenario, or briefly putting, the supply demand outlook is not favorable at the moment, not favorable. This is a situation in the case of supply and demand. Now look into the factors which are external to supply and demand, or putting it in another way, what are the factors other than supply and demand which are likely to influence the prices in the short term? First of all, this Wednesday, the US Federal Reserve is expected to release the minutes of its last meeting. So US Federal Reserve's last meeting of the FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee meeting, minutes is expected to release this Wednesday. So in fact, the outcome of the meeting was already communicated through a press release by the Federal Reserve Chairman, but more details of, for example, deliberations made in the meeting will be reflected in the minutes. So the entire world is waiting for the minutes. So because the minutes will be giving more clues about what is the next move of the Federal Reserve. Whether the Federal Reserve go for an aggressive rate hike. That means that this factor is actually keeping speculators away, speculative investors away. So speculative investors fear that if there is an aggressive rate hike, interest rate hike by the Federal Reserve, then dollar will be stronger and also interest rate will be higher. That means the speculative investments will be less affordable or less economically less attractive. So until this minutes is coming in Wednesday, speculative investors are likely to something like they will wait and see approach. They will be largely staying on the sideline. Then another thing, we have mentioned right now several factors impacting on the manufacturing, global manufacturing industry, manufacturing sector. And also this Ukraine war is continuing without end in sight. So this is actually this uncertainty caused by the Ukraine war and the various factors negatively impacting on the manufacturing sector are keeping speculative investors away. So we use the word risk appetite, means in such an uncertain phase, normally speculative investors will not be daring to take risky decisions. They will stay away at this phase. That means in rubber futures, we can't expect a strong buying interest by the speculative investors because of the low risk appetite. Appetite for risk is low. Then another thing, last week we have seen global equity market collapsing because of the quarterly earnings by the corporates were much lower compared to expectation. So because of the lower quarterly, poor quarterly earnings reported by various corporates, so the equity markets were down. So this is expected to continue in the coming week also. Equity markets are unlikely to gain strength because of the poor performance of the corporates. Then we have the dollar. What is going to happen to dollar? A strong dollar is not good for the rubber markets. For attracting investors to speculative markets, speculative activities, including rubber futures, and dollar should be soft. But in the coming week, we are expecting that actually there is one factor which is likely to keep the dollar soft, means China's reopening, means easing of restriction in China. That means risk is a little bit coming down. Risk is coming down. So when the risk is less, usually investors in US dollar will be keeping away. When the risk is very high, investors will go to US dollar. But at the same time, we have mentioned so many factors impacting on the global manufacturing sector, as well as the uncertainties caused by the Ukraine war. So these factors will keep the risk appetite down. When the risk appetite is low, investors will be parking the funds or parking their money in dollar. So dollar in that way, looking in that that perspective, dollar is likely to be solid or stay strong in the coming week. Anyway, we are not expecting dollar losing its strength. Dollar, there is one positive factor, but at the same time, several factors are actually likely to take the dollar higher or supporting the dollar to stay strong. Then coming to the external factors, we should take into consider that market sentiments will be little bit supported by the China's easing of China lockdown. That this will be having a positive sentiment. At the same time, I would like to highlight that the positive impacts because of the China lockdown easing or the announcement on that will be limited, because there are several other factors impacting on the global manufacturing, as well as the repercussions of the economic repercussions of the Ukraine war is there, and the global economy at the moment is slowing down. Some of the prediction, for example, Goldman Sachs, they predicted that the global economy will go into a recession. So there is a fear that sometimes slowdown, currently it is slowing down. The slowing down phase, it may go to a recession. So that means we are having the external dimension, taking into the various factors which are external to supply and demand. We have seen both positive and negative factors, but overall, negative factors are dominating. That means in the coming week, we have unfavorable supply demand condition. At the same time, there are several factors in the non-fundamental. There are several non-fundamental factors or factors which are external to supply and demand, having negative impacts on the natural market. That means in the coming week, we are not expecting rubber prices recovering, but because of the Shanghai's lifting or easing of restriction, there can be some kind of a positive sentiment, but the recovery resulting from the Shanghai lockdown lifting will be limited and short-lived. This is a summary of the outlook, market outlook, and thank you very much, and we will see again next week at the same. Thank you.
Hey, that's about the natural rubber market outlook. We're changing the name from next week onwards. We don't call it any more review. We call it a natural rubber market outlook by Mr. Jom Jacob. As I'd like to mention to you that Mr. Jom is also presenting a master class on the natural rubber economics. If you're looking at learn about what kind of factors impact the natural rubber supply and demand prices, this is a program that you should consider to join. It will be held on the 15th June, and it's an online program. Check the details at the knowhow-webinars.com. In this week, we have another episode on the natural rubber dialogue. Okay, this dialogue is focusing on the Philippines and natural rubber. We have 3 Philippine rubber industry professionals with well experience in the industry. They'll be sharing their insights and the latest developments in the Philippines natural rubber. I welcome you all to participate in this session on the 26th May at 4 p.m. Philippines time. And you can check the details on how to register this session. Okay, at our contact me for assistance on this. So we come to end of this episode. I do encourage all of you to visit. If you like to view this session again, please watch this one on YouTube at TechnoWay channel. Okay, if you need more information, assistance, please reach out to me. I think most of you have a contact information. I see you next week. Thank you all for joining. I'm hoping that you find it useful. See you later.